Welcome, everybody. I'm Jerry McMurtry. I'm the Dean of the College of Graduate Studies.
I'm Polly. I am the Assistant Director for the Graduate Admissions Office.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I don't know if you can see me. I see Polly though. I'm a Graduate Student Support Coordinator for theses and dissertations.
My name is Josh, and I'm a Graduate Student Support Coordinator within COGS as well. I help mostly with the forms and general policy procedures. So if you have any questions, please reach out.
Hi, everyone. Very glad we're recording this. My name is Lauren Perkinson. I am the Assistant to the Dean for the College of Graduate Studies, and I do a lot of things with interpreting policies and procedures, fellowships, assistantships, funding, that sort of stuff. Always happy to help if anyone has questions. And yeah, I think we have our technology stuff figured out, so I'm going to turn it over to Amanda. Thanks for being here.
So my name is Amanda Palmer, and I am the graduate assistant for the College of Graduate Studies, and I work with the Director of Grad Student Support Programs in supporting students. And so I help coordinate the programming and the BB Learn workshops course that has all of the resources for helping you to fulfill your degree requirements, to build community, to grow in your professional and personal development. So I am a resource for you. You can reach out to me as a student and as a staff member. I'm happy to help you. So today we're going to talk about getting a master's degree. So we're going to talk about everything you need to know to start and complete your degree. And first, I want to say it's a challenging process. Being a grad student, being an undergrad student too, is also challenging, but we want to give you the preparation that you need. I know that when I started as a grad student, I had been out of school for 14 years, out of college, and I didn't know I needed a major professor, no idea how to create a study plan when I was getting my master's. And so the purpose of this presentation, it was requested by students. And we're trying to help you to have some of the answers to those questions at the beginning of the journey for you. And if you're not right at the beginning of your journey, then you're in the right place as well. So we'll talk about choosing a major professor, creating a study plan, the forms and the documents that you need, as well as resources along the way. We want to encourage you to focus on just one step at a time. You don't need to do all of these things right at once. As you understand more about the process, then you're able to feel confident as you go through each step along the way. And also all of these steps, as well as links to all these forms, can be found in several places, both on BB Learn in the COGS forms and procedures little module section, as well as on the COGS website on U Idaho's website. And we're also going to, we have a PDF with these steps as well that we can send to you after this meeting. All right, so these are the steps that we'll talk about, and let's get started. So one of the very first things that you'll want to do is the appointment of your major professor. And sometimes people change their major professor as they go along, but that initial appointment may stay your mentor and advisor throughout the time that you're getting your master's degree. And often you want to find someone who has research interests that are similar to yours. And a really important part of the appointment of your major professor and your committee is figuring out those expectations at the beginning that will help your communication process to be successful as you go throughout your years as a grad student. And so what the plan is for this presentation is that for each step, we'll talk about the timeline. We'll talk about what forms are needed, and then what resources there are for helping you to take that step. So with each step, I'd like to give everyone a chance if you have a question, or you can hold questions till the end. Either way is fine. And also I'm gonna give the opportunity for the other COGS staff members who work directly with these things, especially Josh and Lauren and Stephanie, as we're going through the different phases to share any additional input if they have it. So first of all, though, your timeline for your major professor, it's very important to do that within the first year of your program so that you're able to figure out your trajectory right at the beginning. So as soon as you're able to, and the director of your program can help you to identify a major professor, and you can go meet with them and see if they would be a good fit for you and if you'd be a good fit for them. Your major professor relationship can really impact your graduate degree, as many of you probably know, and there's all different ways of advising. Major professors come in all types across campus, and that's why it's real important to talk about expectations and things like that as you get started. So I'll have Josh talk about the form, and then we'll open it up if there's any questions.
Yeah, so the form can be found on our website as well as through the links here. You only have to appoint your major professor initially. And so if you have additional committee members, then you can add them at a later time. You don't have to do them all at once. We suggest doing this again as early as you can, just to both get familiar with the program, expectations, as well as with everything in our process of going from admission to graduation. We do need to process these forms and get things in place before you can do something like submit a study plan, apply to graduate, etc. So we encourage this for multiple reasons.
And how should they submit those forms? In person, online?
Yeah, there's a lot of avenues. So you can come in person. We are in Morrill Hall 104. If you'd like to submit it via email, you can to our COGS-forms email. It's just our COGS-FORMS@uidaho.edu. And so we can process it either way. Typically, we'll get that taken care of for you in about a day or two. But you'll notice in your degree audit that some things will change, and it should represent what you submit on your forms. So before you do the next step, like submit a study plan, make sure that your advisor is showing the correct person. Within VandelWeb, you can also check on your graduate student committee. Most students don't know about this, but there is an option for you in your student tab. So that is where you'll find the most up-to-date information.
So as Josh mentioned, your study plan is a really important part of your degree journey. And so the next step we're going to talk about is how and when to create that study plan. So by the end of your first year in the program, you really want to have a plan for what courses you need to take. And that is going to vary depending on your major, depending on your college. At first, when I started at the University of Idaho, I didn't totally understand that, okay, my college is the University of Idaho, but there's all different colleges. I'm in the College of Education, Health, and Human Sciences. And so each of those colleges has a little bit different requirements for your major, for your emphasis areas. And so we definitely recommend that your study plan is something that you create in consultation with your major professor. It also needs to be submitted and approved by your major professor. Then after that point, it is submitted again and has to be checked by the COGS staff and approved in that way as well. And so if you wait, it's not like you are in huge trouble if you haven't created your study plan at some particular point. However, you may, if you do wait, you may get to the point where you're thinking it's about time to graduate and you realize you really haven't met the requirements for the college, for your major. Whereas if you work with your major professor and you create that study plan at the beginning, you're going to avoid that situation because you'll have that on track. People have also asked, I just realized I didn't stop for questions earlier. I can do that after this. But people have also asked, can you change your study plan? How locked in are you to this study plan? And you can change it at any time. It just goes through that same process of submitting it to your major professor and then submitting it through COGS. And so it's not that you are locked in forever and can never change your mind, but it does need to go through that process to make sure that your change will also get you to where you want to go at the end of your degree. So I'll turn it over to Josh again if you want to talk about resources, and then we will ask for questions about these topics.
Yeah, definitely. So as Amanda was saying, it should be fluid. So, and it's subject to all the approvals through your major professor, department, COGS, and registrar's office. If you have transfer credits, it's best to submit these as early as possible. Our how-to guides that are shared there go over each of these steps and kind of the odd areas of degree audit. Things from like research credits, limitations, and just what we require from the study plans. They can seem a little bit daunting, so feel free to ask questions. We're happy to set up a quick Zoom meeting to go over and share some screens and just make sure that you're on the right path. Even if you haven't submitted it quite yet to your major professor, we can offer you some feedback and just let you know if you're on the right track. If it gets denied, it's not a big deal. Just you can, like Amanda was saying, edit that previous one and submit it with the changes that the person that denied it requested of you.
All right, so your next stage, and we may have Stephanie chime in here as our thesis and dissertation expert. Hope she turned on her camera, ready to go, ready for action. But our next stage is preparing for your non-thesis project or exam, or writing your thesis. So this stage of your program is also going to vary by department. You may start, if you have a short program, you might start planning and writing your thesis early on, or your internship project may happen early on. It's going to look different. This is another place where it's really important to talk with your major professor about when to do this. So we don't have the typical when to do that. It's basically something that you really work out with your major professor. But the great thing that Stephanie can talk about a little bit for us is that we do have a very detailed handbook for theses and dissertations. So Stephanie, do you want to talk a little bit about that, where you can find it and what is in it?
Sure. If you're one of the lucky ones that is doing a thesis, you get to work with me a little bit. We had some exciting changes happen this fall. So once you're to that stage where you start writing, we have a new handbook out there. Everything's going to be electronic, so no longer have to submit a paper copy of your thesis. So that's an exciting change. Everything goes through a platform called ProQuest ETD. And so the handbook that is shown there is actually, if you open the Word version of it, you can use as the template itself. So it's all set with all the bells and whistles that you need to set up your table of contents and all those items. You just need to get rid of the pretty cover page and then start typing away. So it has all that stuff there, but most of you, I believe, are in your first stages. Yeah, so we made a few changes. So if you're looking at previous students' work, our title page, we have a little bit of a we put approved by on the title page, and then page 2 is no longer the signature page. So we're going to do electronic signatures through the ETD site. So that's an exciting change, because that was usually the hardest thing to get, especially we learned during COVID that it's very hard to get signatures when you're not physically with people. So it's a very exciting change for that. But do look at the handbook. There may be some adjustments if you're using the old handbook, because we just switched on August 23rd. So, but everything else, as far as the margins and everything else, are still the same. And it's all set there in the handbook for you to use for that way. As far as a non-thesis student, you definitely, it runs the gamut of the projects that they have you do. Some people have to do an exam and an internship. Some is just a comprehensive exam. So you definitely want to check with your major professor if they haven't discussed what your exit requirement is at this point. So. All right.
Great. Thank
you. Didn't know the handbook existed. Go get it. It's worth a read.
Absolutely. I would highly recommend reading it first, rather than using it for troubleshooting, but reading it ahead of time to give you.
Yeah, and I do have a couple pages of the top 10 things that you need to set up first. So whereas the margins, keeping your titles and subheads consistent, and if you use the little tricks that I say there, then you have most of the things that I send it back for, you've taken care of. If you use the little checklist that's out there as well. So that'll help.
That's awesome. Thank you. And we also are going to have, I don't have the date right in front of me, but maybe somebody could put it in the chat. We're going to do 2 thesis and dissertation formatting workshops. The first will talk about this, what Stephanie just mentioned, some of the most important things to remember as you get started. And then the second workshop will be if you are in, like as Nikki said, the writing stage. If you're in that stage, we can talk about get some feedback. Stephanie will be helping with any troubles you're coming up with. So now we are getting to a very exciting stage of the process, the application to graduate. And so this is when you are feeling like, all right, I've got my study plan was figured out. I'm just about there to the end of it. And I am ready to apply to graduate. It is quite an exciting feeling. I know when I was ready to do that for my master's, I was pretty excited, but there are some things I did not know, which was, one of the things was that you should expect to receive some notifications as you go through this process, that as you submit things, you can expect to get automatic receipts, so that you know where you are in the process. I didn't realize I should be expecting those, and my application for graduation was held up at one point in the process, and I almost didn't get to graduate when I wanted to. And so it's important to know some of these things. So you are forewarned, so you are forearmed to know that what to expect, that you can expect to get things, and you can always check on that status too, just in case you're not sure. So I'm going to have Josh talk about the application to graduate and the when and how of that.
Yeah, so this is also where we cross realms a bit with the registrar's office. Once we approve your graduation application, you're in their hands somewhat to confer your degree. So you'll want to make sure you check on their deadlines as well for early fees, late fees. They don't really describe when fees are applied, but we usually hold on to your graduation application for a little bit through the term just to make sure, if you did need to defer, then we're not going to charge you unnecessarily for that application. So let us know as soon as you can, be communicative, and we'll make sure to do the best that we can for you. Yes, that's a great point. So you do need the College of Graduate Studies does require students to be registered in the term that they graduate in, unless you meet the very specific in parentheses deadlines. If you had completed all your requirements last term and just need like an additional week, then you could apply to graduate for the next term without having to register. But otherwise, you do need to be in at least a course credit, or if you are not on an assistantship that would require you to be in the full-time status of 9 credits, you could register for Grad 720. It's an option that we released last year to reduce the fees for students that just need to basically defend and submit their thesis or non-thesis requirements. So if you've completed all your coursework, your degree audit's clearing, and you're ready to go, and when I say clearing, I mean it's either all in green or blue, like you're all set to go for the end of the term, then you have that option. And it is pretty nice for those that aren't getting outside funding or anything like that.
Thanks, Josh. Do we have any questions about applications to graduate or any of these resources?
Yeah, I had a question. So I applied to graduate this semester to defend my thesis. If for some reason that doesn't happen, you were talking about a deferment. How does that work?
Yeah, so all applications are term specific and degree specific. So definitely make sure that you're applying for the degree that you are seeking. I know we've had some confusion with non-thesis master students and thesis master students. But like I said, we tried to hold on to them in our queue till about a month or two before the end of the term. And so that way it gives you sufficient time. If it's looking like you're not going to make the deadlines, if you're concerned for that, then we can hold off. We don't encourage students to apply as late as the week before the end of the term, but there is that option. You do have the heavier fee with it. But overall, we try to mitigate the unnecessary fees that way. So just communicate with us and let us know. If you see that we have approved it and you're like, wait, maybe not, let us know as soon as you can, and we'll again try to not get that charged for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your question, Nikki. Personally, I needed to use the change of curriculum form several different times over the course. I went from when I applied for the program through admissions, I applied for a non-thesis option. And then when I was there, my plan was a thesis option, and then COVID hit and I had to become a non-thesis again. And so the change of curriculum form is another one of the forms that you can find on the COGS page. And it's a pretty important one in terms of if any changes happen along the course of the way, because there often are. So that's if you change your major, and if you change whether or not your thesis or non-thesis, because that does matter as you're applying to graduate, as you're creating your study plan. So that's just a good one to know if things are changing like crazy, like it was for me. One thing to remember is that there are a lot of deadlines, and that's probably not a shocker. But the nice thing is that the COGS website is updated with thesis and dissertation, as well as non-thesis deadlines. And so everything you need to know about timing there can help. It can really help you to plan ahead. And bookmarking this page when you're at that phase of your process can really be a helpful one for you. And those do kind of vary in terms of which semester it is and how it falls in the, obviously in the calendar, but sort of how close to the end it is. So check those out. All right, so the next step is requesting to proceed with final defense of thesis. And it's important to go through this step of the process so that COGS knows where you are at as you're going through. And so I'm going to have Josh explain this.
Yeah, so this one's pretty brief. We just need to see that your committee has all agreed to the date, time, and location of your defense. This is also how you get your final defense report form, which you do need for your thesis defense. And so if we haven't received this, you won't have been given that additional form. So be sure to get this to us 2 weeks in advance. This is around the same time that you should also submit your thesis to ETD. The quicker you can, if you have a majority of it written and we can at least offer you the formatting feedback, you'll have the opportunity after your defense then to focus on solely the committee comments that you have to address.
Okay, and then your final defense report and repository agreement, or the non-thesis report, are another super important step at the end of your master's journey. So there's a lot of words on this page, but it's important to make sure that you are aware of these forms. In terms of the non-thesis report, that's something that only your major professor can complete. So that's more a matter of communication in terms of letting your major professor know, hey, I have completed my internship, I've taken my exam, whatever it is that your exit activity is. Make sure that that's communicated so it doesn't hold up the process of graduation.
Quick tip for that, it will show up on your unofficial transcript as well. And so it's a good thing to be able to check in on and see if your major professor has entered that information into the system. So
where is your unofficial transcript located?
Oh, that is in your student tab in VandalWeb. I think under degree audit and transcript.
Yes, awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of resources in there, and it's good to look around. All right, and then the submission of your thesis. I think that her expression in this picture is a pretty good example of how folks are feeling when they get to that point. So again, this is new this year. As Stephanie talked about, submitting your thesis is now not a giant stack of paper that you have to pay a bunch of money to print. You submit this within ProQuest, as she said, by the deadline. You want to go back to checking those deadlines. And the authorization to submit form comes from that ETD committee review process. I believe that that is sent to you. It's not something you can go and find. Stephanie, do you want to say any more about
Yeah,
this?
so they have a cute little cute little thing. So when you set up your ETD account, you need to put in your major professor and your committee, and then now it asks for email addresses. So when you do that, you'll put in your major professor email, the committee. The final spot on your committee will be your department administrator. They were unable to separate that out for us, so the last line will be your department chair, whoever signs off on your major's or theses. So even though they're not officially part of your committee, we need them on there so they can finally give you the final approval for their authorization to submit. Because like I said, we revised the format so that page 2 no longer is a physical signature page. This is the process that they finally this is the final hurrah saying that you've completed everything. It's an email queue. So it'll go to your major professor first, and they'll say you did wonderfully and hit approve, and they'll go through the approval process. Let's say you've got a grumpy committee member. They should have told you all the issues they had with your thesis before you got to this point. But if they haven't, they have the option to hit reject, but then they need to give you specific guidelines on what to fix so that you can get it back into the approval queue and be approved. Okay. So, but by this point, they should have given you all the feedback after the defense. So between the defense and your final revisions, this is the last hurrah. This is them signing off on that page saying you did a wonderful job, but it's virtual. So they'll get an email with a link, just like you will with your ETD account, and says, hey, go make changes here, or click this link. It's a direct back into your account. They will be able to do that instantaneously. It's going to be very painless for them. If you don't hear anything, that's good news, because if they hit reject, then you're going to get an email saying, please go back in and revise with these suggestions. If you don't hear anything, that means on the very end, it's sort of, hopefully they throw confetti on the last email, but I don't think they do. But it says that everything has been completed and approved through the process. All that needs to happen by 5 p.m. on the last day of the semester. Okay, so before we'd say, okay, you need to have the paper copy here, this is like the last hurrah. So we have to meet that deadline 5 p.m. on that Friday. So you want to give yourself enough time that it can go through your committee and your department chair so they can click the approve button on that. And that's the big change. It's fun. It's going to be easy. No running around with a piece of paper going, please sign. Where's the department head? Oh, he's on, at a conference. You're like, no, you don't have to do that anymore. It's all electronic. They can do it from anywhere they are, especially if you have committee members that are on other campuses. It's very good. Very happy about this improvement.
For sure. Thank you, Stephanie. And again, at any time during the process, if you have questions about things that aren't quite going according to plan, or you've forgotten the word for word what we told you today, you can reach out to Stephanie. You can reach out to any of the staff. Come on into the office in Morrill 104. 104, right? Yeah. Okay. You can come on in, and everybody is super, really prefers to help you ahead of time, rather than you get down to graduation and never asked your questions. So you can always come in, and they're super happy to help. All right. So, whoops, that won't let me go forward. Okay, and that's basically what I just said, that everyone is here to help. And as they've spoken a little bit during this meeting, our Josh, who's spoken, he's the graduate student support coordinator, works a lot with the forms and all those technicalities, and he can walk you through any challenges, or there are some forms that may be unique, like really unique to the situation that you're in, that maybe we didn't go over. And then again, Stephanie works with the thesis submissions and problems, troubleshooting, anything there. And then Lauren also works in there as the assistant to the dean, and she helps with everything with funding. We didn't talk about that a lot today, but things with funding and a lot of other aspects of your graduate student experience. So any of them can point you in the right direction. And also we're in the process of hiring a new director of grad student support services who you'll be getting an email from them very soon. And they will be an excellent liaison and representative for helping support you through the process as well. And again, you can reach out to me. I'm kind of right there in the trenches with you.
Yeah, so
Okay.
just before we give about 15 minutes for questions, I just want to let Polly give a couple minutes. Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Um,
I was gonna say
Yeah,
that too.
there's been a couple changes with residency statuses. And so since she is the graduate admissions director and expert on this, we figured it's good for you guys to know just in case you do take longer than a year for your program.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Josh. I wanted to share this very important information with you. This would apply to students who are currently considered or determined to be non-residents for tuition purposes. At this time, only U.S. citizens and U.S. permanent residents would qualify. So if you are not yet a resident, you may qualify after 1 year of full enrollment at the University of Idaho if you have lived and declared domicile in Idaho for at least 1 year prior to your application. A lot of students would not know about this option. I will be happy to help. So if you have any questions, or if you even want to know where to start, the graduate admissions office will be happy to help. The application will be submitted to the registrar's office, but we can help you start it, and we can give you pointers on what information you need to provide so your application will be successful. If you have any questions right now, I will be able to help. One very important thing, if you are currently, if you have been awarded and accepted a WRGP, you will not qualify for that. If you have any questions, and please let your friends, your colleagues know as well. I know that even students with assistantship would still benefit from becoming in-state residents for tuition purposes, because their taxes at the end of each year would be lower.
Great, thank you, Polly. Do we have any questions regarding what Polly was talking about, admissions, or any of the other elements that we talked about, or if there's anything we didn't cover that you were hoping to learn about today?
Yeah, so there's one question in the chat that we're somewhat answering from Nikki, just kind of going over the general timeline for submitting your thesis. And so we kind of answered it there, but basically around the same time that you are submitting your request to proceed with your final defense is when you should be submitting your thesis to ETD. If you do it a couple days after, in between there and your defense, that's fine too. But like we said, it's all about the timing, and we do want to give you as much time to focus on, the important aspects of your committee comments that you need to address. And so if we can get you the feedback on your formatting as soon as possible, it'll be much better for you in the end.
Polly, you want to say something more?
Yes, I mean, if there is a little bit of time, because you mentioned the change of curriculum form, and that led me to thinking that we do offer the University of Idaho offers quite a few graduate academic certificates that students may not know about that would go concurrent with their graduate program, and at the end of it may some certificates actually can share quite a lot of credits, and students can add those certificates via a change of curriculum form. And I know that Josh mentioned that when you apply for graduation, you'll have to apply for both your graduate program and graduate certificate. But it's definitely something that we would like to spread the word, because it's a great addition to your transcript and to your CV.
Thank you for mentioning that, Polly. I know that for me personally, my major professor has been encouraging me to get a statistics certificate. And so I was looking into what that means, and if any of the courses I've taken in research analysis would count towards any of it. But so that in particular is one type of certificate.
We have identified at least 5 certificates that would share the majority of credits with a graduate program. So definitely look up, you can just put in your browser University of Idaho graduate academic certificates, and you'd land on the right page, and there are links available for each individual certificate.
All right, well, I do want to let you know again that the PDF of this presentation will be available in the BB Learn course that each of you should be a part of if you're a grad student or postdoc. And so we'll have the slides, we'll have the recording of this, which, oh goodness, it'll be a little crazy at the beginning. And we will also have a document that we have here in person that has this, like, it's just a 1-page handout, the steps to your degree. Basically what we talked about here, but each little line has the form you need, and you can click on it right from that document. So we can send those out as well. So if you'd prefer, rather than accessing it from the BB Learn course, you could put your email address. You could send it to us, just a direct message to one of us, either myself or Josh or Lauren. Or Lauren's not logged in, I don't think. That would be harder. So you could send it to me or Josh, and we can get those directly to you. Otherwise, they will be available in the BB Learn workshop course.
So when it comes to walking for graduation, you do have a couple options. You do have, well, right now I think they're still giving you the option to walk in this current term or the next. And so that is slightly different than you'll get your degree and it will be conferred. You know, if you finish this term, it will be conferred as of December, but you will be able to come back and walk in the slightly larger, nicer weather spring one. So, you know, there are advantages.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for being grad students. I'm going to put in a little plug for this evening from 4:30 to 7:30 in the library first floor classroom. There is a write-in that all grad students are welcome to come to. We'll have snacks. There will be snacks there, and it'll just be sort of just writing anything you're working on right now together, just sort of an accountability group. And those are going to happen every 2 weeks in the same location, always with snacks each semester. So yeah, so that's in the library, and we've got lots of other programs coming up as well. We're doing a PhD 101 next week for PhD students. So yeah, if there aren't any further questions, then thank you guys so much for your time, for your patience at the beginning, and for being here.